Hi guys, what's going on? Big news today. We finally got our Armada preview for the Quasar expansion, so that means a couple of things. For one, we got a bunch of new info. Also, that means we're getting closer and closer to it actually hitting store shelves, so that's always a good thing. Based on this article coming out now, I'm going to say hopefully, I'm going to make a prediction we'll have this in hand before the 4th of July. So probably by the last week of June is when my prediction is that we will actually have this as a street date. That's only going off of prior trends, so we shall see. But let's talk about everything that's in this article. I'm really going to talk about everything that we haven't seen already. So I'm really going to talk about Sloan or any of the stuff that we've already seen. First thing I want to talk about is the ship cards. So we finally get a look at the ship cards, and I'm actually pretty impressed. They're not amazing, but they're not half bad. So let's take a look at this. Well, we have our cheaper one at 54 points. This is the Quasar Fire 1 class cruiser carrier. And this one has the blue die in the front. So let's look at all of the ship stats since everything is completely revealed now. We've got our brace and redirect, only the two. All right, that's fine. I think this comes, it's 54 points, so that's really the biggest thing out of all of this. And it's got 3 blue in the front, 2 blue in the sides, 1 blue in the rear, 2 shields all around except for 1 in the back. So lightly shielded, fairly low armament, but not that low. So the armament is respectable while still being kind of low. And it's 2-4-2, so 2 command, 4 squadron, and 2 engineering. That's not bad. It's almost like a small ship stats on a medium ship base. It's only a 6 hull, so it's not really that strong. Maneuverability, let's talk about the speeds. This thing can go up to speed 3, so that's fair. That's definitely respectable. And it's got, decent turning ability too. And it does, at speed 3, it does have the blank, which means it'll actually probably work really well with Jerjerrod. So that's good. It won't work super well because it still has a 2 at speed 1 and has a 1-click at speed 2. But it does have the blank at speed 3, so Jerjerrod will still have, some impact on this guy. So that's also good to know. The rear is definitely the weakest part of this ship, but let's look at the upgrades. Now we have a double offensive retrofit on this thing. Now this was previously only available on the ISD-1. So now this is the first time seeing a double slot that's reused on another ship, and that really gives you a lot of stuff. You can increase the squadron value to 5 and put rapid deployment, or rapid launch bays rather, or maybe increase it to 5 and extend to farther range so you can activate it. This is the perfect carrier platform. At 54 points too, it's very, very affordable. And what I love about this price point is sometimes I like to have thematic looking lists. I like to have different sizes, but so many of the anything bigger than a small ship ends up tending to be so expensive, and I really like this as a very, very cheap medium ship. So I'm just very pleased with this price point. And so we do have our weapons team and we have our officer, and so not really a whole lot of offensive upgrade ability here, even though we do have the 2 offensive retrofits. Those are probably going to go towards squadron stuff. So that's the class cruiser carrier. I'm sorry, the Quasar Fire 1 class cruiser carrier. Let's talk about the Quasar Fire 2. This is a very, very flashy one because of the first thing everybody noticed when it was first spoiled is the red die in the anti-squadron battery. That's huge. Let's look at the rest of this ship though. It's also a 2-4-2. This one has 2 red and 1 blue in the front, and a red and a blue on each side. And that's really the only difference as far as the battery armament. But now that's not bad. 2 red in the front is really not half bad because that still gets you a shot on obstructed ships. So that still matters. And then, with a concentrate fire, you can have, 3 red long range, maybe even 4 if they're medium range. So you can get some dice. It's got a respectable firing. But the thing that's really nice about this one that makes it really unique is the upgrade slots. So here, we only have 1 offensive, but we have 2 weapons teams. This is the first time we've ever had 2 weapons teams. This is big. There are so many different potential things that you can do here that I haven't even started experimenting with builds yet, but there's going to be a ton of things you can do with 2 weapons teams. And not to mention, there's still weapons teams that we haven't seen show up yet. So Now, some of the things with weapons teams, all right, it's going to be great. I think an obvious one here is going to be gunnery teams, so that you can still take that front shot for anti-squadron and then be able to shoot at a ship. So gunnery teams is almost a given for this ship, but we don't know what else is coming out. There's probably going to be some stuff that combos even better with it, because a lot of times the weapons team slot will end up being something good for black dice, or being really good for ships that can take, a turbo laser upgrade. And so, this one's going to be, a little harder to figure out. And I think basically the idea behind this one is that you'll use a boarding party to take up one weapons team and then one of your offensive retrofits, and then you can also still put gunnery teams on there. That's probably the way that this will be configured by default. But I just love that there's so many future options now too. Maybe you don't want to mess with, I think boarding parties are going to be like the way of the future, and both of these are set up to where you can, take a boarding party and then still, be more offensive for this one, or be more carrier for the other one. So I think that's why they have the upgrades that they do. Both of them can take a boarding team, and you're probably going to want that. But this one comes in at 61 points, so still at a good price point, but a little more expensive. But what's really unique about this one is the red anti-squadron die, and also, obviously the two weapons teams, but that red anti-squadron die is just sweet. So, and it still has the officer slot, so if, you put Callus on this thing, or, gosh, it's just, there's so many possibilities, and I can't wait to start wreaking havoc on squadrons. And I wonder if this guy, see, the Empire right now is going to have this huge advantage for ships that have anti-squadron. This guy Like this guy in a pair of Raiders with flechette torpedoes, I mean, you don't need to run any squadrons, although it's weird to run this ship without squadrons, but you don't really need it. So let's look at the titles. All right, so we got 3 titles for here, which is always good. 3 titles is kind of the norm, but not every ship has more than 3. Some only have 1, and then some only have 2, and so it's always good to have 3 titles, or heck, I'd love more than, I want a whole cardboard expansion full of titles. But let's take a look at these. All right, so we have the Squall. Now the Squall is pretty cool, especially because of the lack of other upgrade slots. So this allows us a little bit of the kind of the Yavaris type of mentality. And basically, so when you activate, you can take up to 3 non-unengaged friendly ships at close to medium range and move them 2. Distance 2. They can't move into engagement, but still, that's a good way to get your ships moving faster. This is really, really good for first and second turn of the game, because you're going to be able to get your ships really far out there. If you use this, you may end up needing something like relay, and it's possible to push the squadrons so far ahead that you kind of lose, but it also helps you if, as far as going left or right, or I went this way and now I need to go that way. It allows for error correction. There's a lot of things that this allows you to do that's just great. So I think Squall is a very, very cool title, especially because this ship lacks the support team. So there's already some, it would be broken if you could do that, because then you can move them even further. But between flight commander and fighter coordination team and that old combo, which is great. Now you still can put flight commander on here, so that's great, and that'll work really, really well with the Squall. So let's talk about the next title. This is Pursuant. Now the Pursuant costs only 2. I'm kind of doing these out of order. The article has them in price order. I'm just doing them in the order that I want to talk about them. So the Pursuant is actually, I think, much cooler, because this allows you to, it's a one-shot use, but it's a command. Basically, so whenever you reveal a command that's not a squadron command, you can then discard the title for Pursuant, do a full-blown squadron command as if it were from a dial, and then you still get to do your dial command, so you can get a full engineering and a full squadron. Now, the problem is there's not too many squadron commands too many commands that you would want to do for this thing that are going to be that huge. I can think maybe for a Quasar Fire 2, maybe Concentrate Fire if you're going to go, trying to kill a named elite squadron at at long range, and you really want to get that extra die or something like that. There's different combinations, but this allows for a lot of potential here. It definitely does. So it allows you some flexibility. It may not be the best thing right now, but I mean, if you really need the nav and you need to get that extra yaw too, it's great having that ability, and you have the flexibility of, and if I need to do a different command, I'm fine. If I needed, or if you don't know if you're going to need to do squadrons this particular, each individual turn, you got a lot of flexibility. So Pursuant is very, very cool, except it's a one-shot, but at only 2 points, why not? Absolutely. Okay, so then let's talk about Stronghold. Stronghold is the 5-point title, and this is almost like Gallant Haven for the Empire. So while a friendly squadron with Swarm at distance 1 to 2 is defending, the attack is treated as obstructed. Doesn't have to be defending against squadrons, by the way. It can be defending against anyone. So that's cool. So that means basically, if you keep your squadrons kind of close, they can almost never take anti-squadron fire from ships, because so many ships have only the one die, right? So that's a huge thing right there, because obstructed, you remove a die. And this is going to really help, your anti-squadron fire from other ships. That's also going to help you just in regular dogfighting, but you have to keep them close. So this one works really well if you just want a defensive screen. But like, if you're really pushing squadrons out, you're probably not going to have them at distance 1 to 2, because that's still kind of close. So it all depends on how you're going to fly. This is one that I'm going to have to fly a bunch to really figure out if it's worth it or not. I think the best one right now is probably Squall or Pursuant. I mean, Squall seems more fun and more flexible, but Pursuant seems like you can potentially combo with other different things that will arise. I think Pursuant will be more fun eventually, whereas Squall will be more fun right now, if that makes sense. That's what I'm thinking. But we have 2 other upgrades that were shown in this preview, and I'm going to save the best for last. Let's talk about the Grand Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor is a reactionary officer, and basically anytime an enemy ship at distance 1 through 5 changes their speed, you can exhaust the Grand Inquisitor to change your speed. And it can go up or down, so you can speed up this way. Now obviously you can't, it doesn't say it, but you can't go past your maximum speed, but you can go down to 0 if you need to. And the cool thing about this, if you needed to completely stand still, is that it's when somebody is changing their speed, which means they've already shot. So if it's just like you against one other person, and maybe you're already at speed 1 or whatever, and they're trying to ram you, well then you can. And a lot of times, if you're trying to ram, somebody gets in and you're like this, and then you stop. And then because they know that, oh, well then when you go, you're going to end up having to ram me as well. And so maybe you want to slow down to speed 0 just so you don't ram them. Granted, that's probably a one, because if you're a big enough ship, maybe you'll just kill them anyway. But it's an option. But the other thing is, if somebody's trying to go past you, then you can speed up too, or you can slow down if they're trying to overshoot you. It just allows you a lot of reaction, and it gives you a lot of choices, because you don't even have to use it. Now that's cool. And now also, if you put him on the interdictor with the interdictor title, you can potentially do it twice. So that's there's already little bits of combos that are kind of rising up already. So I'm not sure how I feel about the Grand Inquisitor. I think he's good. He just doesn't seem that flashy to me. He's not adding dice, or he's not anything that cool. But being able to adjust your speed is cool. It's great, no doubt. Especially if you're already doing nav tokens anyway. Maybe you're gonna go from, maybe you've got Ozzel, you can go from like 1 to 4. You can probably go to 0 to 4. I mean, there's a lot of if you have the token and everything else too. So pretty cool. Now let's talk about my favorite card here, Disposable Capacitors. Now this one probably got overlooked by some people because it's a one-shot use, and I'm totally okay with that because of the way this works. So this one is small or medium ship only. It's an offensive retrofit. It only costs 3 points too, so I'm totally digging the cheap upgrades. I love cheap upgrades. Keep them coming. The lower price points everything comes in this game, the better, because I want to fit more stuff on the table. This game is all about putting as much stuff on the table as I can, and the more I can fit on the table, the better, the more fun and the more beautiful the game is going to be. And so the cheaper stuff is, the more stuff I can put on the table. Disposable Capacitors is pretty cool. It's basically when you activate, you may discard this card. If you do, the blue dice in your battery armament can be used while attacking ships at close to long range until the end of this round. Now this doesn't work against squadrons because it's only against ships, but it's all of your armament. So that means all of your arcs. Now this is amazing. And I'll tell you why this is amazing, because those ships that have blue dice oftentimes are only going to be able to use this one time, because then the following round they'll probably be within range. This is amazing for so many things that it can combo with. Like when I read this card, I said, whoa. Now, obviously, this works with the Quasar, especially the cheaper Quasar, the Quasar 1. It has 3 blue dice in its front arc, and so, you know, like, oh, okay, cool, I can, you know, shoot 3 blue dice at long range. That's great. Now, this is great against flotillas. This is excellent against, like, especially the lifeboats that want to run away. You're like, oh, I don't quite have you in range? No problem. Boom. But the thing is, you have to make the choice as soon as you activate. Now, you can pre-measure and say, okay, am I in medium range of you? Okay, I guess I will activate this guy and then flip this over. So you can make sure that it's going to work before, you know, and make sure you check your arcs. Because ideally, you want to use this when you have 2 shots so you can get the most bang for your buck. You don't really want this on like a GR75 combat retrofit, for example, because a lot of times you're only going to have the 1 shot in the front. Although, granted, that's another use for it. If you want to get long-range shots with the Rebels, you know, at their super cheap price, that's a way to do it, but you're not maximizing the card that way. You want this to be on a ship, like on an interdictor, for example. You're going to get, okay, on an interdictor, I'm going to get front and side on you, and now, boom, 4 dice each shot. You know, really, now you can't put this on a large ship, because if you could, it would be, like, broken on an ISD-2. You're like, okay, boom, 8 dice, 9 dice, maybe even 10 dice, you know, first turn, boom, you know. So that would be a little bit, I could see that being broken. But on a smaller medium ship, there are smaller medium ships that can really do some nice things with this, and there's so many different places, and I'll tell you why I really love this card. I'm going to tell you why. I mean, I've been telling you why, but here's the one thing that makes me so happy about this card. Offensive Retrofit is the name of the you know, of the upgrade slot. It's never felt offensive to me. It's always felt squadron based. And granted, squadrons can be used offensively, but it's almost like they should have named them docking bay upgrades or hangar upgrades or something like that, because they only applied to almost only applied to squadrons. I mean, you have the tractor beam in there too, the Phylon, you know, but the other one's kind of in its own category. But this is the first offensive retrofit that truly feels offensive to me. And so there are so many ships that I'm like, oh, I really just want to go like completely single purpose. I want to go totally glass cannon. And I like being able to min-max sometimes. And I love that this is a way to take a ship that already, you know, maybe has some offensive upgrades, and now I'm going to totally max it out and give it even another offensive upgrade. Now, they were smart by restricting this so it can't go on large ships, but there's just, I can't wait to start fleet building with this card, and it's cheap too, so it's just an extra, you know, powerful punch for just any ship. And the thing is, blue dice are always good too, especially at long range, and especially against flotillas, because you're going to be rolling red dice there. There's only 1 accuracy on the red dice, so even if you know, and that's, you know, it's one of the worst sides on a blue die. You're going to get damaged. You're definitely going to get damaged. You may get crits too. But I mean, this card can work in so many fleets. The Rebels would love it with Dodana. There's just Sato, if you want to get extra dice, you know, in that first shot, and you then turn them into, now you can turn them into black if you want. There's so many combinations for this card, and this is the one that seems like it's like the aha, here's something that's totally going to change the game, separate from the new mechanics that come with the ship, separate from, you know, oh, now I got red squadron dice at long range. All that stuff is going to change the game too. Separate from boarding parties, that's a new thing in this wave. But here's disposable capacitors, and this affects everything that's out there already and adds something we didn't already have. This is the one I'm most excited about. But I want to hear from you. What are you most excited about from this preview? What do you think is going to have the biggest impact in the game? How do you think, you know, squadrons are going to be prepared to deal with this red anti-squadron die? Think about how many you can run. You could run a whole lot of these things and just completely unload on squadrons every turn. It's just nuts. It's just, I mean, like, you'd have to buy a lot of Quasars. Like, are you really going to fly like 4 Quasars in a fleet? Maybe you will. I don't know. Or maybe 4 Quasars and 16 TIE fighters, and everybody's just going, oh, that's actually, somebody's going to do that now. Somebody's totally going to do that. Let me know what you think, guys. I actually really want to hear from you on this. What's your favorite card? How do you think some of these new cards are going to change the meta? And also, what's your favorite title out of these 3 and why? I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and click that little bell so you can get alerts as whenever I post new content, especially for when the Hammerhead preview comes out. You know, I'm going to cover that one too. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see what the Hammerheads cost. That's a really important thing, because if they're really cheap like we expect them to be, it's gonna be bad news for the Empire. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching again, and have a wonderful day.